Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Syaiful Danish bin Syaiful Razmiza. So now I will be go through the
Okay,
data
Assalamualaikum
preparation and
warahmatullahi
cleaning.
wabarakatuh. My name is
While the
Ahmad
survey is
Fatin
considered
Azrai.
contain a
My
wealth of
domain is
information, we will
Saiful
limit
Danish.
our analysis to
So
the
today we
following
are
areas, which
going
is demographics of the
to
survey
do the
respondents and
exploratory data
developer programming
analysis
communities.
using
Also, the
Python, the
distribution of
study of
programming
Stack
skills,
Overflow Annual
experience, and
Developer Survey
preferences,
2020.
employment-related information, and
So for
preferences.
the
So let
introduction,
us select subsets of columns
we
with
need to
the
download the
relevant
dataset into
data.
Jupyter,
So
download
from
CSV,
the
CSV
CSV file,
manual and
we will
upload
be
in
using
Jupyter.
the subset
But
of the
today we
data.
use helper
So we'll
library
be put it
of
inside
a
the
dataset.
variable selected
This
underscore
dataset
columns.
can be downloaded into
We've done that,
Jupyter with
and let us
single
see
Python
what is the
command.
length of the
So
selected
what we
columns.
use is pip
So we
install
got 20.
open datasets.
So let us extract a copy
Then
of the
we import
data from
dataset
these columns
as
into a new data frame,
ready.
survey
Then
underscore df,
use
which
the
we will
download.
continue
So
to
the
modify
dataset
further without
already
affecting the
downloaded.
original data frame.
So
Okay, so now we put the raw data frame
we
into the
use
from the selected
import
columns
s to
and
check,
we make a copy
which
into
is
the
the
survey
module
data frame. We've done that, and now
already
we
verified or
also
not.
do the schema raw,
So
which is the question from the selected
we
columns
use
into
the
schema,
OS
and we will
this
see the survey data
URL.
frame,
So
which
we can see
have
here
thousands of rows and 20
the
columns.
output outcome
Now
is
let's view some basic
same.
information about the data
So
frame.
what we can see
So we can use the schema shape,
it has 3 files. So the first file
get
is
the
make
20, and survey data
that
frame
contains
shape,
information about the dataset.
we get
Survey result schema.csv contain the
64,461
list of
rows
question and the
and 20
structure
columns.
of each question.
And
And
we
survey
will see
result
the info of the survey
public.csv
data frame.
the full list of
You can
responses
see
to
we
the
get
question.
country, age,
So
gender,
now
and such.
let's load CSV using pandas
Most
library.
columns
So
have
import
the
pandas
data
as we did.
type object either because they contain values of different types or they
Then
contain
use
empty values, which are represented
CSV
np.net or not available.
that contains
It appears
survey
that every
responses.
column contains some empty values since the non-null count for every
So
column is
this is
lower
the
than the
table.
total number of rows.
So
You will need to deal with empty values to
the
manually adjust the
table
data
dataset
type for each
contain
column
over
on a
4,000 responses
case-by-case
to 60
basis.
questions.
Only two of the columns were detected as numeric columns,
Many
age
questions
and
are optional.
working
The
hours,
responses has been
even though
anonymized
there are
and
a
there's
few
no
other
personally
columns
added
which have
short
mostly numeric
information for
values. To
responses.
make our analysis
That's
easier, let's just
randomized
convert other
respondent ID.
columns into numeric data types while ignoring any non-numeric value. They will get converted to non-available or non-null. So let us
So we
see
call it survey.
schema, years of code, what is the
.df.
question,
The result
including
of
any
calling
education,
that
how
process
many
is
years
going
have you been
to
coding
be
in
raw
programming?
dataset.
So let us see
The unprocessed
in our
dataset
survey
that we
data
are
frame,
picking up.
the years code, the unique
Then
ID.
we can create
So we have
notification to
an
prepare
array
dataset
of
for analysis.
data type,
Then
and
we
we can
create
see the
raw
less
df.
year than one. We do not want this, we do not want the NaN, and also we do not want more than 50
Then
years
we
because
create
it
the raw
will
df
disturbing
by calling
with
the
our
CSV
analysis
to loop
with the graphs and
at this
such.
the data
So we
column
do this
that data
to
frame looks
remove
like. It looks
the
like
data,
as a whole bunch column. In fact, the
and now
total
we
is about
can run it
61
again to
column.
see the data of it has been removed. So let us now view some basic statistics about the numeric columns. So let us describe our survey data frame. So as you can see here,
So
we have count the mean of each one, the age and such, the standard deviation, the
so let's
minimum,
just
50% and the max.
see a list of
There
column
seems to be a
in
problem with the
data
age column
frame
as the
survey
minimum
raw
value is
df
1 and
column
the max value is
to
279.
see
This is a common issue with
list of
surveys.
column from data
Responses may
frame.
contain invalid
So this
values
is not
due
make
to
sense
accidental or
because
intentional errors while responding. So a
we
simple
need
fix would be
to use
not
schema
the
file to
rows where the
understand
value in the age column is
this
higher than
column
100 years or
because
lower
it
than 10 years
represents. So this
as
the
invalid
first
survey
schema
responses.
frame
This just can be
and
done by
the
using the drop method.
CSV.
As you can see here, the age
So the
for the minimum
CSV
is 1 and the
schema
max is
frame to
279,
check
which is
and
unlogical. So we can
to
replace it.
understand the column.
We've done that, then we can run this again to see.
So
Now it has been fixed.
after done this, we
So
click
the
schema
same
raw, which
whole
is
true
where
for
we
working
return the
hours. Let's
schema file,
ignore and
schema
phrase where
raw,
the value for the column is higher than 140 hours,
schema
which is
raw with
approximately
CSV.
20 hours per day, which is
With the index column,
unbelievably
has
crazy.
column we create series
So
question
let us do
types
that too for
with
the
schema raw.
working hours. We
So
drop
we
more
can now use
hours
the
than
schema raw to
140.
retrieve full
Let us see that again.
question from any column
Working hours,
in survey
and then
raw df.
it will
So
become normal.
we can check the example schema
So
raw.
let us continue.
Here,
The gender column also allows picking multiple
schema
options,
raw
but to simplify our
go.
analysis, we will remove values containing more than
So
options.
correspond to the
So
question, not
we
including
will
education, how
see
many
the scheme
years
for the gender, what the
recorded the
question,
professionally as
which
far
of
as
the following
possible.
describe you. If any,
So
please
that's
check
it.
all that
This
and apply. If you
question.
prefer not to answer,
So
you
now we
may
are
leave this
loaded the
question blank.
dataset and
So
we
now
can move
let's
on
see in our survey data frame
to the next step
the
for
gender,
processing
the
and
value counts.
cleaning the data
So we have
for
men
our analysis.
45,000, women, non-binary, and such. So we will import NumPy as NP. Now we do the data frame from survey where, and we have now cleaned up and prepared the dataset for the analysis. We have cleaned up all the unnecessary data. Now we only got men, women, and non-binary, gender or gender non-conforming. The others are not needed for our data analysis. So we can see now the value count of gender. Yes, and now we can sample from the survey data frame. So this is the 10 sample of the survey data frame. We clean it, and now we can do our analysis. So I think that's all from me. Now let's move to Iqbal with the exploratory data analysis. Thank you.
Okay, next is exploratory data analysis. So before we can ask interesting question about the survey responses, you will have to understand what the demographic about country, age, gender, education level, employment level of the respondent look like. It's important to explore this variable in order to understand how representative the survey is of the worldwide programming community. As a survey of this scale generally tends to have some selection bias. Okay. For this, we use the diagram, which is because we will be plotting graph, so we use Matplotlib and Seaborn. So as you can see, and this is the another basic style to the plotting graph. So we start with the country. So as you can see here, schema country, where do you live? So we ask the community where they live. Okay, so what we can see if from the survey country, we have 183 country in the world for this responses. So from the survey, we can see the highest value count is the United States, which is USA, 40,000, and then followed by India, United Kingdom, Germany, and Canada. So this is the mean for the all, which is 0.10. So here the other country, the highest number of respondents. So as you can see, the USA have the highest, which is 5K, and then followed by India, UK, Germany, Canada, and the others. So now we can visualize using a bar chart. So use the Matplotlib and Seaborn. So you can see from the bar chart, 12,000 something respondent from USA, then followed by India, United Kingdom, and Germany. So as you can see, the highest respondent is from USA and India, because which one might expect since the survey is in English. Yes, for the age, we can see what is your age in here. If you prefer not to answer, you may leave this question blank. So how we do? So we plot a graph. Then as you can see here, the large percentage respondent in the age of 20 to 45, which somewhat representative of the programming community in general, as well as young people have taken up computer as their field study or profession in last 20 years. Okay, so next for the gender. So it's like the distribution of the responses for the gender. It's well known fact that women and non-binary gender are underrepresented in the programming community, so we might expect to see a skewed distribution here. So for the schema gender, which of the following describe you, if any, please shall apply. If you prefer not to answer, you may leave the question blank. So as we can see here, for the survey of the gender, we can see the highest is men is 45,000, and then followed by women and the binary and the other gender. So what we can see is we use a pie chart to represent this. So as you can see, this their result, men, women, and non-binary, and so on. So only 8% survey responses will have answered the question and identified as a woman or non-binary. This number is lower than the overall percentage of women and non-binary gender in the program community, which is estimated to be around 12%. Okay. So next we continue for the education level. Formal education in a computer science is often considered as important requirement of becoming a programmer. Let's see if that indeed the case, especially since there are many free resources and totally available online to learn programming. We will use the horizontal bar plot to compare the level of the respondents. So the survey we can see here is the education level involved: master degree, bachelor, secondary school, professional degree, and then we can see the bar plot. You can see the bar plot here. So which of the following best describe the highest level of formal education that you are complete? It appears that well over half of respondents hold a bachelor, master degrees. So most programmers definitely seem to have some college education, although it's not clear from this graph alone if they hold a degree in computer science. So next, let's plot undergraduate major, but this time we will convert into percentage and sub-percentage value to make it easier to visualize the order. So we back to the country because I want to explain because why this be like that, because this the plot sticks, so the rotation is 75 degree. So So we do because it's more convenient because this cannot make overflow. Okay. Okay. Then next to it's not overflow. This is a overlap. Okay. So next we continue to the undergraduate major. But this time I'll convert number into percentage. Okay. So as you can see, scheme under undergraduate major. What was your primary field of study? So survey DF undergraduate major value count. So as you can see, the highest is computer science, computer engineering, and software engineering, which is 0.619. So now plot. So as you can see here, it's 40% of programming holder a college dedicated field of study like computer science is very encouraging. This seems to suggest that while college education is helpful in general, you do not need to pursue a major computer science to become a successful programmer. So next is how important formal education such as university degree in computer science to your career. From employment freelancing to contract choice among programmers, so it will be interesting to compare the breakdown between full-time, part-time, and freelance. Would that visual the data from the employment column? So this is data from the employment column. So this is the best is the current employment status. Employment full-time. It appears that close to 10% of respondents are employed part-time as freelancer. So next, schema method which the following describe you. Please select all apply. So this is so VDF type that value count. So as you can see here, developer, full stack, developer back end, and developer back end, developer front end. So you can see here the type of job from the column, which is developer desktop, developer full stack, developer mobile designer, and so on. So from here we can conclude all. So we are easy to compare from each one. So next is the total sum sub value, which is the highest is developer back end, which is 26,000, followed by the developer full stack and front end. So as one might expect, the most role include is developer. Okay. So next is from the plot we can see the same result. The highest is developer back end, full stack, and followed by the front end. So now let's also create a scatter plot for the VS Code and VS Code Pro. So as you can see, year of profession coding experience. You can see most of their coding experience like from 10 to 40. This was the highest. Okay, so next we go to the asking and answering.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. I'm Syaiful and I am back with asking and answering questions. Now, we have already gained several insights about the respondents and the programming community in general, simply by exploring individual columns of the dataset. Now, let us ask some specific questions and try to answer them using the data frame operation and interesting visualizations. So, our first question is, which were the most popular programming languages in 2020? To answer this, we can use the language with column, similar to the type respondents were allowed to choose multiple options here. So, let us see the scheme for the language work with. This is the question, and language desire next year. And also we need to see the data frame for survey, language work with. So we have such data. Now first we will split this column into a data frame containing a column of each languages listed in the option. So we can use this languages work data frame, first to split into column and get it from the survey data frame language work with. Now let us see, and now we have done that. So let us see the data frame for language work with. So this is the data frame. It appears that a total of 26 languages were included among the options. Let us aggregate this to identify the percentage of respondents who selected each language. So now we can use these commands to do that. The numeric data frame, we need to make a new data frame which is equal to the language work data frame and select the data types of number and boolean. So the percentages can be turned into numeric and the mean. And now we can also print out the languages work percentages. Now we get the percentages for each language. We have the JavaScript scores the 59% and the least is Julia, which is 0.7%. So we can now plot this information using a horizontal bar chart. Import the matplotlib at the cbound. So yeah, we can now see clearly our visualizations and we can answer our question but then. So the JavaScript scores the most with almost 60%. And the least is Julia. So perhaps not surprisingly, JavaScript and HTML or CSS comes out at the top of web development as web development. It's one of the most soft skills today and it's also happened to be one of the easiest to get started with. SQL is necessary for working with relational databases, so it's no surprise that most programmers work with SQL on a regular basis. For other forms of development, Python seems to be a popular choice, beating out Java, which was the industry standard for server application development for over 2 decades. So this explains a lot why this graph is. So we have the top 5 from Java to the JavaScript. And we can also see what percentage for the which language scores higher than 30%. So from Java and to JavaScript. So now we do this to see the language interested. We can now see the language interested. Yes, the language interested we'll be using to see the percentage is the same. And we can see the language the most people interested in learning over the next year. So people wants to learn more about Python. So it's surprising that Python is the most people are interested in learning since it's an easy to learn. Yeah, this explains a lot why Python scores the most because it was the easiest. Or we can say that Python, we can conclude that Python is the easiest because it has the most score. Because also the language is well suited for a variety of domains: application development, numerical computing, data analysis, machine learning, big data, cloud and automation, web scraping, scripting, etc., etc. We are using Python for this very analysis, so we are going to copy. So question number 2. Which are the most loved languages? In example, a high percentage of people who have used the language want to continue learning and using it over the next year. So while this question may seem tricky at first, it's really easy to solve using pandas array operations. Here's what we can do. So create a new data frame, languages love data frame, which contains a true value for a language only if the corresponding values in languages work data frame and languages interested data frame are both true. Take a column-wise sum of languages love data frame and divide it by the column-wise sum of languages that work data frame to get the percentages of respondents who love the language. Sort the result in decreasing order and plot a horizontal bar graph. So we can do this starting simply with creating the data frame for the language love. We combine it both, and you can see this is the data frame. They have all sorts of false and true, and the languages for the programming. We convert it to numeric first, and we drop unnecessary data. Now we can see it again. So this is the percentages. Rust is the most loved, and now we can plot it for our visualization. Rust is the most loved one, and we conclude that Rust has been Stack Overflow's most loved language for 4 years in a row, followed by TypeScript, which has gained a lot of popularity in the past few years as a good alternative to JavaScript for web development. Python features at number 3, despite only being one of the most widely used languages in the world. This is testament to the fact that the language has solid foundation, it is easy to learn and use, has a strong ecosystem of libraries for various and massive worldwide community of developers to enjoy using it. So yeah, you can conclude a lot from this. So next question is the third question. In which countries do developers work with the highest number of hours per week? Consider countries with more than 250 responses only. Because 250 responses is a valid number to be go through with the analysis. To answer this question, we'll need to use the group by data frame method to aggregate the rows for each country. We will also need to filter the results to only include the countries which have more than 250 respondents. So let us start with the survey data frame. We can group by the country, work hours, week, and also age, and we can see it with the mean method. So these are the mean. You can see Afghanistan until Zimbabwe. So you can now also see from the countries in the frame, we need to see with the ascending order. And now we can do the head for the 15 first data. And now we can see it. So this is the first 15 countries with the highest work week hours on average, on mean. So being Iran the first and India the lowest. The Asian countries like Iran, China have the highest working hours, followed by the United States. However, there isn't too much variation overall in the average working hours, seem to be around 40 hours per week. So our last question we can ask, how important is it to start young to build a career in programming? So let us create a scatter plot of age versus years code pro. In example, years of coding experience to answer this question. So we need to see the question first and get it from the schema 5. Including education, how many years have you coded professionally as a part of your work? So we can use the scatter plot to see. So years of professional coding experience, and the x-axis is age. So hobbies, the blue one is yes and the orange one is no. You can see the points all over the graph, which seem to indicate that you can start programming professionally at any age. Also, many people who have been coding for several decades professionally also seem to enjoy it as a hobby. So you can also view the distribution of the each first code column to see the respondents tried programming for the first time. So we will using the Seaborn and the matplotlib to see the distribution plot. And at the what age did you first write your line code of program? And this is the age of first code. So the density is most likely at the teenage years, which is 18, 19. And as you might expect, most people have to sim a lot of exposure to programming before the age of 40. But there are people of all ages and walks of life who are learning to code. So I think that is all for the questions. We will be moving to the inferences and conclusion. Back to Kemal.
Okay, that's for the inference and the conclusion. We have drawn many interesting inference from the survey. Here's summary of the few of them. Based on the demography of the survey respondent, we can infer that the survey is somewhat representative of the overall programming community, although it definitely has people responses from programmers in non-English speaking countries and from women and binary genders. The programming community is not as diverse as it can be, although the things are improving. We should take more efforts to support and encourage members from the underrepresented community, whether in terms of age, country, race, gender, or otherwise. More programmers for a college degree, a fairly large percentage did not have computer science as their major in the college. So computer science degree is not compulsory for learning to code or building a career in programming. A significant percentage of programmers either work part-time or as a freelancer. And this can be a great way to break into the field, especially when you are just getting started. So JavaScript and HTML is the most programming language user in 2020. Closely followed by the SQL Python. Python is the large most people interested in learning, so it's easy to learn general purpose programming language will suit for the variety of domain. Rust and transcript are the most relevant in 2020. Fast growing community. The Python is a course that, despite already being a widely used language, programmer around the world seems to be working around 40 hours a week on average, with higher variation by country. We can learn and start programming professionally at any age, and you are likely have a long and fulfilling career if you also enjoy programming as a hobby. So for the reference, Stack Overflow developer survey, reference vendors user guide, reference public user guide, reference Seaborn user guide and tutorial, and reference open datasets Python library. So that's all. Thank you.